Oh, look. It's Saturday. There's Aloha. There's Kenny. They had a surprise visit today to come and see Annie. And Annie was still dreaming. You have a great day, yeah? No, don't drop me off. You go to Catalonia.
You sure?
Yeah, see you later. Have a good day.
Bye, Gary.
Take care, Kenny. See you later.
See you later. Have a great day.
You have a good day. See you. There we go. So, Annie's surprised. It's 11:45 and the friends came round. I did say a couple of weeks ago, whenever you're in Davao, pop round, because Annie would just study and be in bed all day. Study. So sometimes you need to get some downtime, don't you? You need to get your head around life. There's a Ming Ming in the background. And the dogs. Who let the dogs out? Woof, woof, woof. There was a memo sent out from the Bureau of Immigration about visas, about becoming stricter and becoming more compliant with people coming into the Philippines on their visas. So today I'm chatting and talking about the visas and what I know. Now, a lot of people are trying to say, oh, it's becoming difficult, it's becoming more of this and more of that and more. No, it's not. What's actually happening is that the Philippines is becoming more diligent in checking what you're doing with your visa. So when you fly into the Philippines and you're on a tourist visa, you'll arrive, they'll issue a tourist visa for 30 days, then you can turn around and go down to BI and you can turn around and you can apply for another one. Okay, and you just go down there, you give your passport, you give your payment, you turn around and say what you're doing. But what they want to know is, 1, where you live, 2, your ID, and 3, what you've been doing while you've been here. Okay, because the word in the visa is the key one: tourist. You ain't living here. And a lot of people coming here on a tourist visa sometimes can be here for 10 to 15 years. That's not a tourist visa, that's a residential visa. So the Philippine government want to get you on a residential visa. So you apply for your tourist visa, you get an extension, you get another extension, you get another extension, which is about 3,000 to 4,000 peso. After the second one, you get yourself an ACRI card, which is about 1,800 peso. And then you can go off and do whatever you want to turn around doing. You do your travelling or you end up at the same address. But remember, you've got to update your address where you're living. You've got to update your details. You can't turn around and say, I live here, but you're on Luzon. Or you live here, but you're actually on Visayas. Or you live in Visayas, but you're on Mindanao. You need to update because you are a tourist. You might not be moving around, you are a tourist. Now, when you go to renew your visa, because you have to turn around and do a visa run, you can fly to Singapore and you can fly to Hong Kong, or you can fly somewhere. And people turn around and say to me, well, how can I turn around and do this? Do I just fly out, spend a couple of hours there and come back? In the past, you could. Now, if you turn around and you fly out to Hong Kong at 10 o'clock on a Friday night and you fly back 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, you get your entry visa and then your visa starts from there, they'll move your name to a list, another list that turns around and says that you are being monitored because you're not a tourist, you're residential. Because would a tourist go out of the country for 2 to 3 hours and then fly back in? No, they wouldn't. They would fly out for maybe a week. So I would suggest you look at travelling to Hong Kong and staying there a week. That clears your records. Then you come back and you start again. You need to pay for that. Or you can fly to Guam for 3.5 hours and you can stay there if you can afford it. Oh my God, it's expensive in Guam. So that's a tourist. And everybody's entitled to that tourist visa. If you get put onto this watch list that you are using a tourist visa as a residential visa, then it becomes difficult. That is where the Philippine government are cracking down, making sure that you are not saying that you're somebody else. And this is all because about 5 or 6 years ago, they found a big loophole with lots of foreigners coming into the country and overstaying and staying here and exiting and coming back and doing all this, and nobody was keeping an eye on it. Now they're keeping an eye on it. Now they are watching what you're doing. You need to turn around and understand. You need to make sure you have your paperwork, your passport, your information, your bank account details, your residential address, where you're staying, what your flight in is, what your flight out is, and you need to turn around and do that. And make sure you make it as easy as possible. You want to keep below the radar, keep your paperwork below the radar. You want to stay below the radar, make sure you are quiet. Don't get angry. Too many foreigners feel there is a right. It's not a right to get a tourist visa. It's not a right. It's the country is giving you a benefit. You don't have a right to come and live in the Philippines on a tourist visa. You're a tourist. Now, if you're coming here and you're working, that is also a breach of the tourist visa because you're not allowed to work. So if you're coming here and you're doing a YouTube and you're getting money, you need to pay tax in the Philippines on that Philippine earning, and you need to turn around and be registered to turn around and do your YouTube channel. Like me. I live here, but I don't live on a tourist visa. It's too bloody complicated for me. So there we go. Now, we'll go on to the next one. Balikbayan. Balikbayan, you need to turn around and have a Philippine spouse or a Filipino spouse or asawa. And they sponsor you virtually, and you apply for that visa. When you come in, you get issued it for 12 months. You go back to the BR and you renew it again on the basis of your Philippine wife or your Philippine husband being your asawa. But you need to exit the country and come back into the country. Now, a lot of people believe that they can exit the country on their own. Well, no, you're being sponsored by your partner as a Filipino. So they need to be with you when you travel to instigate the Balikbayan when you come back into the country. If you don't, what actually happens is you go out, you come back, you then register as a tourist, you then turn around and apply for your Balikbayan at the local BI at the end of the month with your spouse, with your asawa, male or female, and start the process of the application. Quite straightforward. Pay the money and then come away, and then that's valid for another year. That's a simple part of it. Remember, be careful. Don't rock the boat. Don't get all leery. Don't get all arsey. I've seen the reason I turned around and went down the SRRV, I used to be sitting there listening to all of these foreigners having this God divine right in the passport office, in the BI office, and I was going, oh my God. And I would follow some of these people, and the attitude that person had given to the person that was on the cashier reflected on me, and I was like, and it became more difficult. So be careful what you're saying and what you're doing and how you're doing it. Yeah. Now, that's Balikbayan. It's quite straightforward. The process is quite straightforward. You can go to a consultancy, and the consultancy can turn around and charge you money to turn around and do it. But I tell you what, it's so easy going to the BI office to get your tourist visa or your Balikbayan renewed. So easy. It's like going to a gas station. Don't get worried, guys. De-stress. De-stress, guys. Got all these things in your head, worrying about this and that, and are we going to land on the moon? Are they going to find me? As long as you're not breaking the law, and as long as you're not turning around and putting yourself on the immigration or the police list or the MBI list, or keep a low profile. Live. Accept what you're doing with your life. Okay, 13A. That's where you marry a Filipina, male or female, doesn't matter. You can apply for your 13A overseas. You can apply for your Balikbayan overseas as well and renew it. But just it takes time. If you've got a 13A and you've applied for your 13A here in the Philippines, you have a probationary period, and you do that probationary period and you turn around and you do the paperwork. The paperwork is about your ID and about how much you're earning and your bank account, and they want to talk to her and they want to talk to you and make sure that you're not trafficking, you're not a foreign sex trader, you're not getting her out of the country to turn around and sell her to some dodgy guy in some dodgy city in the world, and then you come back and start the process all again. It doesn't work like that. You turn around and you convince and you make sure that you have a wife. Now, you can travel. I wouldn't advise it because it makes it a little bit more complicated. Apply for your visa, but make sure you apply for your visa with enough time. That's the same with the tourist visa. Don't give yourself 1 day or 1 hour. Give yourself a week and apply for your visa. Same with the Balikbayan. Give yourself a week. Don't give yourself a day. If you're turning around and you're going to do the 13A, make sure you apply for it. And if you're going to plan to travel to the US, or you're going to travel outside the Philippines, put it on hold. Because as soon as you turn around and travel, your 13A visa is on hold. It will be on hold while you're away. You come back to the country, and then you have to go down to and start the process and reignite the process. I can't remember the word they use here for it. Reactivate. There we go. You have to reactivate your application because your application said that you, through your visa, you'd gone back to the US. And when you come back into the Philippines, you have to go down to the BI, you reactivate it, and you stay here while you're 13A. You've done your probationary period, you've done all the paperwork, you've done all the police clearance here. Remember, the police clearance in the Philippines is only for Philippines. So you have to comply with that. If they are asking you for an Interpol police clearance, then that becomes an international clearance, and that takes a little bit longer, anything up to 3 months. Now, when I came here, I applied and I got my police clearance from the UK, but my police clearance in the UK only lasted a month. The clearance here in the Philippines takes 3 months. So I had 2 months where my visa, my clearance was out of date. So I had to pay to get the MBI to do a police clearance, the Bureau of Immigration, the police, to do a clearance on me for that 2 months. And ever since then, I've had no issues with my visa. I've applied for it. Now, the other thing is, if you're a tourist and you're Balikbayan or you're 13A, if your details change, address, your name, and your information, like you are retired or you're working, you're going back to work, you need to update your paperwork and you need to pay for that. And there's a nominal charge for making that change and making that paperwork application. But it takes time, and it takes a little bit of time to clear it and make sure it's actually happening. So you need to make sure that is completed. This is where a lot of people sit, get their visa, and they sit down and they think, great. They move 5 or 6 times around the city. Take Dumaguete, for instance. It's the retirement capital of the world. It's like an old people's home on the boulevard. Everybody moves on, everybody's changing, they don't update their paperwork, so their paperwork is invalid. And the Philippine government have made it very clear that it's the departments that issue the immigration and the visas and the update on the visas that need to check all the information is correct and accurate at the time of applying for a visa. If they look down and they turn around and say that I'm living at the town hall in Davao, but I'm not, I'm actually living in Barangay 32C, they won't give me a tourist visa. Rightfully so, because your information that you've put on your form is incorrect. Remember, get copies of your paperwork to issue and hand over. And if there's a change of address, complete the change of address form. It's all about keeping a low profile, not being some half-wit, cocked foreigner that thinks they have a right. They don't have a right. You're in a different country. You're in another country. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about SRRV, which is what I've got. You make a deposit, you put it in the bank, great, done. When you do that money transfer into the bank from an overseas bank, you can't pay cash into it, you can't move it from the Philippines, it has to be an international money transfer. Make sure you take into account the charges. A lot of people go, oh, 10,000, I moved 10,000, and the bank received 9,200. These charges have been taken out so they can complete the application. Make sure you complete it. Otherwise, you then resend and you apply for another $800 or under £800 or 800 something, and then that turns around and takes another 2 weeks for clearance. Make sure your police clearance is correct. Make sure the name on your bank that you're sending money, so my name is Mr. Biden, and I'm sending my money for my visa to the Philippines, and I want it paid into my account, Mr. Trump. Hang on a minute. That ain't gonna work, is it? But people try it. They think they can move money from a family account into their account over here, which is in their name, and their family names don't add up to the police here. That looks like money laundering. Your bank overseas needs to marry to the bank in this country and take into consideration the bank fees. You get a police clearance done, which is local, and it's very straightforward. If it's Interpol, it's a little bit longer, and it's about 3-4 weeks longer if it's an Interpol search. Remember, if you leave the United Kingdom or you leave America and you have no address in that country, you don't have a zip code or a postcode that the police will be able to check you against. It might have been your property, but it isn't today. It's somebody else, and they won't do a police clearance on Emmylou Harris, who's bought your house, or Richard Sunak, who's bought Starmer's house. You need to make sure that you move from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, or A to B to C to D. Do not try and move from A to D, because they want to know what's going on and they think you're being an illegal, you're being a crook, you're being a cheat. So I pay my SRRV, I go down used to be every year, now it's every 2 years. So your visa in the Philippines has been extended. They've given me more time on my visa. Now, an SRRV, you can get discounts on hospital, housing, bank, preferential treatment around the city, discount on food. You can apply for a senior card and you're entitled to that senior card from the Philippine government. You don't get that as a tourist. If you're a tourist and you've got a driving license, it's only valid for 90 days. I've got a driving license and my driving license is valid for 10 years. I've got the same rights as a Filipino, even though I've got a long nose, I've got a white face, I've got no hair, but I don't look Filipino. But the government under the PRA give you those concessions. Now, the other thing I liked about SRRV is there's this big C word, corruption. To me, it's been honest, open and above board at all times. All times. I can't say that about certain other facilities when I've turned around and gone to get my ACR, or I've gone to get my visa renewed and all of a sudden it's not 2004, it's 3004. Where's that other 1,000 going to? Oh, that's the law. You've got somebody across the counter talking to me. I've dealt with the same man and the same girl in my tourist office, on my visa office, for 8 years. 8 years. When I first came here and I was down at the BI, the only person I knew that I could go to was Tony, and he was the police officer. The cashier changed, the visa check person changed, the authorization person changed, the administration person changed, they all changed. So, do I feel comfortable? Yes. Do I like where I am with my visa? Yes. Do I get a load of shit out of my visa? No. So, everybody's panicking. If you're on an SRRV, there are two types. Classic, let's deal with it. You've got a Veterans Classic, which is the American, if you've been in the American service, you can pay $1,500. I put a 10,000 deposit into my account and that stays there. The reason my 10,000 is in there is that when I pass away, Annie, my partner, can go to the bank and take that money and use it to put me in the ground. They can sort out all of my burial and all of my funeral out of that money that's in that pot. And I earn interest on it and it's my money, and if I come out of the SRRV, they'll give me back that money. But I find the SRRV very reliable, very accommodating. They've got a brochure and a pamphlet, and I'll show it to you. I've got it at home. I'll take a picture of it and you can turn around and have a look at that. They give you all these benefits. You don't get these benefits on tourist visa. You've got all these guys and all these people that are turning around and travelling on a tourist visa, and they have to do the visa run and get out of the Philippines, and they're paid $8,000-9,000 to get out, and they spend 3 days out of the country, and it's $100 a day, and that's $300. All of a sudden, it's $2,000. I don't have that problem. I don't need to go to the airport and put up with all of that hassle. I don't have to worry about organising a flight. I don't have to worry about going into Guam or Singapore or Vietnam or anything like that. I don't have to go through all that hassle living in an airport for 3 days while I'm waiting for my return flight to the Philippines. I don't have to worry about that stressful attitude that when I arrive at the airport they might not give me an entry visa. Might not give you an entry visa to be a tourist because you might be an undesirable. You might have got your name on the list over a 5-year period of being a unworthy citizen or an unworthy tourist for the Philippines. I just go to the office and I talk to the same girl. They give me a slip, I go down to the bank, make the payment, go back. 7 days, my visa turns up. They phone me up and say, your visa's here, Mr. Neil, thank you very much. I go, cheers. My visa cost me $320 a year. Exactly the same as a tourist visa. But the benefits I get, 2 parties a year, reduction on my PhilHealth, reduction on my insurance, reduction on food, senior citizens 21% discount on whatever I buy. Food, that is. Clothing, that is. Housing, that will be. I can use the deposit I got in the bank to buy a property or a condo. Can't do that as a tourist. So there are lots of pros and cons, but guys, don't get stressed out, man. Come here, enjoy the life, keep a low profile. Do what you can turn around and do. Make sure you've got $800 in your bank account coming in as a pension, and you can prove you've got $800 from your pension provider wherever you are, or you've got savings paying you £800 a month into an account here, and tourist visa for 1, 800. Tourist visa for 2, 1,000. It's been like that since 2017. I find it interesting that people do have issues and worries about the visa operation here in the Philippines. The visa departments have been told to man up and double down on checking the information that's on the visas. Stop making mistakes. So it's really not about the tourist, it's about the government officials not doing the due diligence on visa application. They're just sitting there going, you could, if I came in and said my name's Chairman Mao, sometimes they'll give me a visa. And they'll go, hello Mr. Mao, no problem, not understanding that that's not my name on my passport, that's not the name on my bank account details, and they wouldn't challenge it, and they wouldn't ask for questions. Now they've started to ask those questions. Now they've started to nail down and make sure that the visas that are issued in the Philippines are legit. They are 100% correct, which is great. The NBI, great. Police, PMB, great. Internal services, very, very, very good. They should have been doing this years ago to stop illegals coming into the country from other countries. I don't look Filipino, so I stand out. But Annie, if she had straight hair, little round glasses, she could be Indonesian, Malaysian, Bali, Singaporean, Vietnamese, Chinese, Macau, all those different countries, just the Asian facial symmetry is different. So visas, they're going to do extra checks, don't worry about it, you'll get in. You'll come here, you'll have a great time. Remember, if you're a tourist, it's a tourist. It's not a tourist visa giving the opportunity to become residential. And the Philippine government will start looking at those travellers that don't travel. They've arrived and they're staying here. Now, one other thing, if you've got married online in the US of A, you can apply for your Balikbayan and you can apply for your 13A. There is only one state in the US, I believe it's Cebu Pacific. No, I believe it's Iowa, OHIO, and they do not put in on the marriage certificate married online. They just turn around and say married, which is great. If you get married online, it becomes a little bit more difficult to apply for your Balikbayan and your 13A, especially your 13A. Your Balikbayan, you'd still need your wife at the airport when you return. But anyway, from me, having a nice cool beer, talking about visas. Hey guys, like, share, subscribe. Oh, trying to be cool and failing.